Commissioner, obviously you just signed the agreement to strengthen cooperation between the U.S. and EU. Will such an agreement make a difference? And my second question is, who's going to be enforcing the piracy? Is this a Navy operation, or what can you tell me about that?
Okay. So this is very important agreement because if, as you can imagine, United States and European Union can take an action together, we'll have a result because European Union is the first consumer, referring to fish products, and United States, they are the third consumer. So if the first and the third consumer, we agree together that our markets will not be available anymore for products of illegal fishing, of pirate fishing, then I think that this will have a lot of results immediately. So we have agreed that we are going to exchange all our information, we are going to act together, and this is important because we are going to now to implement this new legal framework we both have, United States and European Union. And this means that every product that come to our supermarkets, to our plates, will be accompanied by a passport. It's called the catch certificate, and this is a certificate that gives the consumer the guarantee that this is a product of legal and not illegal fishing. So I think this is very important, and I think that now we can go further and cooperate with some other countries, big countries. This is our next step, because combating illegal fishery is absolutely a necessity, but an international necessity. We need international cooperation for this.
Sure. And Commissioner, in terms of enforcement, what's the mechanism by which?
Well, I have visited the headquarters of Coast Guard yesterday. U.S. Coast Guard is very willing to cooperate with us. They are always doing a great job, and also we have our control mechanism in the European Union. We have our control agency in Vigo, Spain, and also we cooperate with all the Coast Guards and the control infrastructure in our member states, in the European countries. So we'll have infrastructure, we have means, we'll have political willing. I hope we'll have results.
Okay, so it's mostly a Coast Guard spearheaded effort. You talked about this in your presentation minutes ago, but how widespread is this problem? And we know obviously that it's impacting the U.S. and EU, which are the first and third largest importers, but what are the dollar costs involved with illegal fishing?
Well, we have some data saying that almost 20 up to 30% of all the worldwide fisheries products are caught illegally. This is a huge number. We're talking about billions of dollars a year. So I think that we have also to realize that we are facing an organized crime in a way. It's organized crime. It's organized worldwide at an international basis because often you have to face actions committed by vessels. Maybe the vessels will be Chinese, maybe the crews will be Indian, maybe the pilot, the captain will be Greek, maybe they are going to land at Canary, at Spain. So it's really a globalized industry. This.
Let me ask you this: who's on the other side of this effort? Who's opposing your efforts to combat this issue? It seems that sea importing nations might not care too much where the fish comes from as long as the price is right. So what are who's on the other side?
Well, the other side is the countries that have a lot of vessels that are going there and fish not in a sustainable way. We have also, I have to say, some countries, European countries, that and we now investigate a lot of cases involving some European vessels from Spain, from Greece, from Denmark, from some our own countries. But I think also that what we face here is a very huge problem of vessels coming from third countries, from Asian countries, from under under flags of convenience. We have a lot of countries involved, but also we have some cases, I would like to admit it, from European countries.
But in terms of, you look at an issue like, like drugs in the United States. That's a huge problem, obviously. There are a lot of folks who say that, it's our lust and it's our demand as Americans for drugs that keeps the problem going. So in terms of illegal fishing, is it a problem in terms of demand?
Yes, it's a problem of, yes, absolutely. It's a problem of demand and of the increasing demand about fisheries products. But what I can say here is that this is why this certificate, catch certificate, is very important, because if there is no market, this will stop. It's as simple as that. So what we have is to be sure that the certificates we take are credible and they can really guarantee what they say. That's why now we are working with a lot of countries. Of course, with United States and European Union, it's easier. We have connections which exchange information, so it's very difficult. And the certificates, they are mostly credible. But also we have to work with third countries where they produce a lot. They come to us with certificates, and we have to check the credibility of this. That's why we are now having a lot of missions in Africa, in the Indian Ocean, where a lot of fishery products come from.
Yeah, you just answered my next question, which was going to be the mechanism in place to guarantee the authenticity of the certificates. So that's good. Talk about the health impacts. We talked about the dollar cost, and the economic cost, but what about the health impacts of illegal fishing?
Mm-hmm. This is also an important aspect, because if you don't have a guarantee that a product there is caught in a sustainable way, then also the consumer has no guarantee that it is also preserved in the good way. And also what is important here is that the consumer knows if a product is, for example, fresh or defrosted. This makes a lot of change referring to health conditions. All the fish products are good, frosted or fresh or defrosted, but of course there are differences. There are a lot of differences between them. So now my ambition is to be sure that in all European supermarkets, every fish product will have a label saying if the fish is fresh or defrosted. It seems simple, but there are very strong reactions against it. I don't know if we'll be successful.
Yeah. Obviously, there are a lot of folks worried about the impact of regulation and things like that. Talk about the fight against.
Well, yes, yes, but we have a lot of good examples. We have a lot of big supply chains that are cooperating with us now, and they are serving only sustainable food and sustainable fish. All the big European chains now, a lot of them are cooperating with us. But of course, we have all these fish markets, and it's all over the world, and it's very difficult to control the situation there.
Let me ask you about an issue that I don't know a lot about, but I think you might be able to answer this question. Talk about the impact of fishing piracy on marine biodiversity. You talked a little bit about that in your address, but expand on that. How does it impact, I guess,
Well, we have some areas, especially in around Africa or in the Indian Ocean, where the piracy fishing led some stocks to a complete destroy, to a collapse, so they cannot fish there anymore. I have discussed this issue with a lot of representatives from the governments of these countries. These are small countries. They have a lot of coastal communities. Their coastal communities sometimes depend completely on fisheries. This is the only source of their income. So it's very important to them to go for sustainability. But, well, it's not always easy, because we cannot be everywhere in the world and we cannot control what's happening. So there are some cases where the stocks were completely collapsed. We also have some cases in European waters where we didn't respect the rules, and we had collapse of the stocks. So now we have to take care of it.
Let me ask you, going back to the economic impact real quick. Obviously, we're still struggling to climb out of this global recession. Do you think that the economic conditions in both the U.S. and Europe have contributed to a spike in piracy? Are more people, going out there and fishing illegally, because it's there's nothing else to do?
Well, yes, okay. Illegal fishing always has a lot of excuses. I mean, if somebody goes to fish illegally, he can find, or she, a lot of excuses. But, sometimes this is just an alibi. Of course, I understand that economic crisis is very pushing for a lot of our people. But what I can say is that also we have to understand that we have to change our culture and our attitude here. Because it's if we are going like this, then our children will have no fish. We're just eating the fish of our children. Our children will never see fish in their plates again. So I don't think that we can have arguments about the crisis. What we can have, and this is very important, is that sometimes the coastal communities need some help from the central governments in order to cope with the crisis. That means that we can help them. For example, in the European Union, we give a lot of money to help small-scale vessels to have better gears. We give them funding for better gears, for greening their policy, for safety reasons. This is a real help. Yes, this is really help. But we cannot say that we can excuse these actions, criminal actions, just because of the crisis.
I think this is an important question. I don't know if we touched upon this, but who exactly are these pirates? I mean, what are they? We talked about the geographics in terms of where they come from, but who are they? What are their backgrounds, and who's helping them?
Well, what I can say is that we have a list of vessels, a blacklist of vessels in Europe, and you can see there that there are vessels from a lot of countries, smaller, bigger vessels. I cannot say that there is a special profile for all these vessels, but they exist. We are now investigating hundreds of these cases, hundreds of vessels. So what we have to do is just to be sure about what we are doing, and persuade them that they have a lot to lose, because if they see their names in this list, then they cannot land anything anymore in our European ports and now in United States ports. So it's worthy of being to comply with the rules.
Now, obviously, this agreement that you've reached with Dr. Luchenko and your presence here, your trip to the U.S. Was meant to highlight this issue and bring more attention to it. Why do you think this is an issue that most people, though, don't understand, don't know a lot about, and don't understand the implications of?
Well, because I think that we have the idea that the oceans are there, they are immense, they produce the fish in a magic way, so everybody can go out and take the fish, and then in a magic way it will be reproduced. We don't have a clear view about the needs of the oceans and the needs of the stocks. So I always say that if we are going like this, and we have studies for this in the European Union, only 8 of our 136 stocks will be healthy in a decade. Mm-hmm. So this is it. We have the idea that we can afford it. This is our idea. We can afford illegal fisheries, we can afford overfishing, because the nature will be there to reproduce everything in a magic way. But this is not the case anymore.